Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. It is so good to see y'all. So good to be here with you all on a Friday night. I know a lot of y'all are outside. I know a lot of y'all are busy. I know a lot of y'all got stuff going on, but it was important to me to make sure that we reached out because tonight was a major night in American politics. May go down as a watershed moment in American politics, and we'll talk about all of it. But first, I want to send a few shouts out. We haven't done that in a while, but it's Friday night, and I think it's important to shout out all the live members who are on the channel who do what they do. Alejandra Espejo, thank you so much for being here. Jazz LP, Dallas's finest, thank you for being here. Wanda Chapman, thank you for being here. As always, we appreciate you. Abel Tesfaye, we appreciate you, brother. By the way, Abel said he hopes that I talk about Kendrick. You know, we're gonna do some Q&A at the end of this. We're gonna do live Q&A at the end of this Joe Biden conversation. So don't worry, there will be plenty of opportunity to talk about They Not Like Us music video and everything else. Rachel, I want to shout you out. Rosability, I want to shout you out. Rosability be shouting me out and defending me on Twitter too. I appreciate it. Adrienne, thank you so much for all of the support as well, man. I appreciate all of y'all. I'm probably doing like 10 things wrong, so I'm gonna jump right right to the proceedings that preceded, about a week ago. In fact, exactly a week ago, the entire country, and I mean the entire country, was absolutely fixated on Joseph Robinette Biden. And the reason why they were fixated on President Biden was because he had just given what will likely go down as the worst debate performance in American presidential history. The only thing I can think of that's comparable is Richard Nixon against John F. Kennedy. And the difference is when Richard Nixon goes in a public debate against John F. Kennedy, it's mostly about the optics. It wasn't a lack of content. It wasn't a lack of mental acuity. It was the fact that Nixon is sweating and Kennedy is dry and together. And they're both actually handsome men. Richard Nixon wasn't unattractive, but John F. Kennedy was like a different thing, right? He was like matinee idol to American people. And so he looked bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and together and telegenic, and Richard Nixon did not. And so that becomes a kind of example of what a presidential election can do, or how a presidential election can be affected, rather, by a debate. But this was different. I think this debate was in many ways what people had expected 2016 to be for Donald Trump. When Donald Trump went against Hillary Clinton, people expected a full mollywhopping. They expected Donald Trump to just get the floor mopped with him and for him to humiliate himself and for America to finally do away with Trump. But Trump didn't do that. Trump took control of the debate in certain ways. He was sexist, he was misogynistic, he was condescending, he talked over her, he was rude, he lied, as he always does. But Trump managed to not walk away from that debate looking badly beaten, if at all. But it was almost unanimous immediately after the Biden-Trump debate that Biden got the floor wiped up with him. Again, it's not a matter of substance. Donald Trump has no substance. It's not a matter of integrity or honesty or transparency, because Donald Trump is a liar. It's not a matter of experience. Joe Biden has done everything in government. He's been a vice president, a president. He's been a senator. He's been on every major committee in the Senate, it seems like. There's no lack of experience, knowledge, know-how, talent, ingenuity, creativity that Joe Biden has when it comes to running the American empire. Again, this is not an endorsement of Biden. It's simply to say that if you run in for the manager of an empire, Biden got the credentials, he got the bona fides. So then, why is it so bad? Well, because Biden got caught up in maybe a moment of senioritis, as they say. Maybe he had a bad night. Maybe he had a bad cold. Or maybe he is no longer sharp enough to be president. But for whatever the reason is, Joe Biden walked away from last week's debate looking like he wasn't sharp, looking like he wasn't present, looking like he wasn't capable of managing the duties of the presidency. And it wasn't the first time someone had said that. It's been said for years now. And even in recent months, it's been ramping up from advisors, from friends, from anonymous sources, people saying, you know what, I don't think Biden has it anymore. So tonight was Bullet, that's funny. So tonight was supposed to be Biden making the case that we got it wrong. Biden was supposed to be out here on ABC with George Stephanopoulos, proving to the world that he was sharp all week. Biden was outside, or no, he wasn't outside. His proxies were outside. His surrogates were outside. His press team was outside saying, Mr. President has it. Joe Biden is sharp. He's okay. And we'll prove it on ABC on Friday night. So suddenly the George Stephanopoulos interview, the ABC interview, becomes super high stakes, because now it's not just a question of whether he can answer for last week. It's whether he can show up in public and demonstrate that he has the ability to be a sharp, functioning person. And so they got the proceedings proceeding very quickly. They asked him what happened. I wasn't persuaded. I wasn't persuaded by this one way or the other, to be honest. I thought that Joe Biden it did nothing to make himself look worse than last week. He certainly looked better than last week, but he did nothing to make himself look like he should be president. If you came in thinking he couldn't be, you still thought that. If you came in thinking he could be, you probably still walked away with that. This interview, in a lot of ways, was a waste of time. Many of the questions were pointless. Many of the questions were empty. Many of the questions were weak. There were moments where I expected a more rigorous follow-up and didn't see it. Stephanopoulos at moments pursued the question, and Biden gave a non-answer or an evasive answer or a cagey answer. And I think Stephanopoulos did the thing that many journalists do, myself included, is sometimes you can only press somebody once or twice, and after that, they make it clear that they're not going to answer it. You can either spend your 30 minutes or an hour or whatever chasing down the same answer, or you can let the public make a decision for themselves. So I want to show you a couple of big moments, I thought, in the interview where Stephanopoulos asked the right question and Biden's answer was less than satisfying. I'm going to start right here.
System. Have you had a full neurological and cognitive evaluation?
I get a full neurological test every day with me. And I've had a full physical. I had, I've been to Walter Reed for my physicals. Yes, the answer is.
I know your doctor said he consulted with a neurologist. I guess I'm asking a slightly different question. Have you had the specific cognitive tests, and have you had a neurologist, a specialist, do an examination?
I want to point out something really fast. Did you hear the caginess in President Biden's answer? George Stephanopoulos was asking him very clearly, have you met with a neurologist? Have you had the medical examination to test your brain? And he says, I get one every day. Now, he wasn't saying that he gets a neurological exam every day. He was saying basically that his everyday life and his everyday job is its own measure of his brain function and power. Basically, I'm sharp because I do this every day. That's what Biden is effectively arguing. Now, you might say my interpretation is wrong and that Biden was saying something different. I'll show you why you're wrong. Keep listening.
No one said I had to. No one said, they said I'm good.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test.
I'm going to give y'all a little game. Whenever a politician or a pundit says, look, after you ask them a direct question, it means they're not about to answer the question. Did you steal the money? Look, are you, or have you ever been a member of the Nazi Party? Look, do you believe in a woman's right to choose? Oh, all right, here's the deal, right? Anything like, look, here's the deal, any of those things when you're asked direct questions means you not about to answer that damn question honestly or directly. So in this case, President Joseph Robinette Biden when he said, look, are you willing to do this thing with the American people? Are you willing to answer that question? Listen to it again.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
Look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test. Everything I do. You know, not only am I campaigning, but I'm running the world. And that's not how it sounds like hyperbole. But we are the essential nation in the world. Madeleine Albright was right.
Did you peep that? A couple of things happened there too, right? First thing he said is, first, he didn't answer the question. Let's just be honest. You know, he did it. He basically said no, right? He said, I never knew I had to. That's why I didn't do it before. He's saying, well, will you do it now? The people want you to have a cognitive test. Are you willing to have the test? Are you willing to share the results of the exam with the American people? Again, a simple question. And he says, look, which means he ain't going to answer it. And then he talks about how his brain power is tested every day. Here's the problem with that argument, Mr. President. I mean, it's a bad argument in general because it doesn't answer the question. But beyond that, the very mechanism that you believe should be used to measure your neurological power or capacity, as well as your just overall fitness for the job, is the very thing that people are pointing to say you're not capable. So you're saying, well, look at me doing the job. And they're saying, yeah, look at you doing the job. From what I hear, he's very sharp in security briefings. That's great. But from what I hear, he has moments where he's not so sharp. He has moments where he doesn't remember things or where he's not fully present. He has moments where he's not fully able to articulate his ideas. And there are moments where it's not clear what his ideas are. This is according to sources. So, and I know some of those sources have been not refuted, but certainly challenged by others. But it's interesting to see the president reject something that really isn't that difficult to do. He could just have a test, release it to the public, and then we wouldn't have these questions. There would be no debate. There would be no debates. There would be no doubt about what's going on. I mean, this doesn't seem like a big deal. And then Mr. President says, you know I can do this work, man. I run the world. I hope y'all caught that. He didn't want to say that. I'm going to tell you something. Presidents don't usually say, I run the world. They may say America is the leader of the free world. We are the moral standard. We are the political, sort of vanguard, whatever you want to say, right? But what people don't usually say is, I run the world. That was one of the moments where Biden said the truth by accident. He read the quiet part out loud, and he immediately caught himself. Now, why? Now, I'll be generous and say Joe Biden has been saying the wrong thing or saying what is in his brain that shouldn't be articulated for decades. Even when he was sharp, he had that same problem. As they say with Joe, whatever come up, come out. So I won't necessarily say that that's fully about his mental function, but it is interesting that I've never heard him say that before, and he couldn't control it then. But just realize that what it means when presidents talk about controlling the world, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's to say that America is a global hegemon. America, because of its stranglehold on the global economy, because of our military might, because of our reach and influence, America does run the world. And so you have to ask yourself, is Joe Biden the person that you want running the world? The answer is no. Joe Biden, in my estimation, failed the interview test. It's really that simple. He failed the test. And the fact that Joe Biden failed the test presents new problems for Democrats, presents new problems for members of Congress in particular. But some of you aren't convinced that he failed the test. And I get that. I get why you would feel that way. I get why you would look at what I just presented and say, well, that doesn't mean he failed. So let's look a little bit more. I want you to get a really good sense of what President Biden said and didn't say in this interview.
Are you the same man today that you were when you took office 3.5 years ago?
In terms of successes, yes. I also was the guy who put together a peace plan for the Middle East that may be coming to fruition. I was also the guy that expanded NATO. I was also the guy that grew the economy. All the individual things that were done were ideas I had or I fulfilled. I moved on. And so, for example, well, that was true then. What's Biden done lately? Today, just announced 200,000 new jobs. We're moving in a direction that no one's ever taken on. I know you know this from the days in the government. I took on Big Pharma. I beat them. No one said I could beat them. I took on all the things we said we got done. We were told we couldn't get done. And part of it is what I said when I ran was I want to do three things: restore some decency to the office, restore some support for the middle class instead of trickle-down economics built from the middle out and the bottom up, the way the wealthy still do fine, everyone does better, and unite the country.
So, again, these are moments that warrant scrutiny for several reasons. First, I think we should scrutinize the actual claim that he made, right? Did he defeat Big Pharma? Did Joe Biden defeat Big Pharma and I missed it? I don't know about that one, President Biden. You may have waged a successful battle against Big Pharma. You may have pushed back against Big Pharma, but you absolutely did not defeat Big Pharma. Big Pharma runs this country. So let's be honest about that. You say you have a plan for peace in the Middle East. I guess when you say the Middle East, you mean the Gaza Strip, because there is no plan that you have articulated. There's no plan that you have created that allows for any kind of peace from the Western Sahara and near Morocco to any kind of legitimate economic justice in Egypt, to an end to the civil war and the ongoing battle between civilian and military leadership in Sudan. There's no way that you could possibly say that you have peace in Syria or Iraq. There's no way you could possibly say that you've created a resolution to what's going on, even in Palestine, even in the West Bank. So at best, you have moved forward a plan that doesn't address those countries or Lebanon, but you have moved forward with a plan to attempt a ceasefire largely on Israel's terms, but a ceasefire. So even the things that he says he's done to prove that he's so sharp and brilliant or sharp and capable, I'm not sure if they're true. And I'm not sure that they make him even more. I don't know if they make him look any more or less capable than he already looks, right? I think if you feel Biden is sharp, you may continue to. If you feel like he's weak, you may continue to. But his success record and his track record don't speak to his effectiveness as a leader. If anything, his failure to have more successes, and more importantly for this election, his failure to celebrate and properly spotlight his victories, shows that he's a candidate who is not fully engaged, and I'm not sure he can be. But beyond that, again, it's a direct question. So are you the same man you were 3 or 4 years ago? And again, he's cagey. He doesn't say yes. He says, in terms of success, I am. He says, in terms of success, I am. Why does he say that? And why does he say that in that way? Well, because he doesn't later on want to, because he's still a lawyer, even though he didn't finish top in his class like he said he did. He's a liar. He is a lawyer. And when he speaks, he's also thinking about what's next. He could have said, no, I'm not the same man. I'm a little bit older. I'm not quite as sharp, but I'm sharp enough. I'm not quite as strong, but I'm strong enough. And at one point, he made a joke about a race. But at the end of the day, he chose a different angle. He said, I am based on my success, which effectively means he's not going to address the ways that he is not. It makes you wonder if he's hiding something. It makes you wonder if he is unserious in some ways about this campaign. It feels like ego. It feels like a desire to hold on to legacy. It feels like someone who thinks he is the absolute best person to defeat Donald Trump. I think he believes that. I don't think that Donald Trump I don't think that Joe Biden believes that there's a better person out there and he's just like refusing to pass the baton. I think he doesn't believe anybody's better. It's kind of like in basketball, Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant, guys like that, who I would always say they absolutely want the best person on the court to take the best shot. They will pass the ball to whoever has the best shot. It just so happens that they believe that even when they're double teamed and 30 feet from the basket and fading away, that they still have a better chance of making it than the guy next to him. And so they genuinely believe they're the best they genuinely believe that they're the best person for the job, even if the evidence is to the contrary. And we are starting to have to wonder if Joe Biden is doing the same thing. Is he operating from a false assumption that he is the best person for the job? Now, that's a content-based analysis. I'm basing it on the content of his words, what he said and what he didn't say. But I want you to also consider how he looked. I know it doesn't feel like the thing we should be focused on. I know some of you might feel bad about focusing on that. I know some of y'all might feel like, I don't want to be ageist by focusing on, his face or his hair or his voice. But they're the ones who told us to watch this interview for the proof. Bullet the Bunny said, hosing grandpa in spray tan don't fix broken brain. Now, again, I'm not trying to be ageist or superficial or major in the minor, as my mama used to say. I don't want to do that, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I mean, very difficult to listen to Joe Biden's voice and not wonder, sincerely. I mean, like, sincerely wonder. This isn't me hating. This isn't me making jokes. This isn't me clowning for attention. None of that, right? I don't move that way. Sincerely, I don't. This is about me really looking at Joe Biden talk and say, you sound like an elderly person who is physically weakened and mentally not as sharp as they can be. Again, we don't want to be ageist. Is there a person that is Joe Biden's age right now at this moment? Is there a person who is Joe Biden's age right now? They're born in 1942 as well. Is there an 81-year-old man right now who could do the presidency? Sure, I don't doubt that. I don't think that being 81 automatically disqualifies you from being president. I don't. I think that I should factor in their 81-ness when making the decision. But as Jazz LP said, the issue is not his age. The issue is his mental acuity. He presents as if he has Parkinson's disease. I don't want to diagnose him. I don't know what he has, but I know Deepak Chopra tweeted and then deleted that he thinks that President Biden also is giving Parkinson's vibes. I don't know what's wrong with President Biden. I don't know if anything is wrong with President Biden. What I do know is that he doesn't seem sharp and he doesn't seem to be doing his job. Those illnesses, those diseases, those maladies are certainly more likely to come up at the age of 81 than they are at the age of 61 or the age of 41. But you could absolutely be 81 and sharp and run the world, as Biden says. And he absolutely did say that. And that was his ego talking, but like you said, it don't mean it wasn't true. But this idea of the Technicolor spray tan idea that we can spray him up, we can make him look younger, we can make him look sharp, we put the hair plugs in, we got the cap teeth or whatever they got, the dentures, whatever. We could do all of that stuff. And by the way, Donald Trump been doing it forever. So let's not act like this is a purely Democrat or even Biden thing. No, Republicans have been doing that forever. They did it with Reagan. They damn sure are doing it with Donald Trump. Donald Trump got so many fake teeth in his head. He got so much spray tan. He got so many hair plugs. This is not about Biden doing something unusual. It's the fact that we have two basically octogenarians running for president, and neither seems particularly capable. But Joe Biden seems especially incapable at the physical and mental levels. Now, I'll take Joe Biden at 60% over Donald Trump at 100% any day of the week and twice on Sunday. So it's not a matter of me saying that they're the same. They are not the same. In fact, as I'm saying that, someone right in, the question is, even if he's impaired, is he better? Is he better as he is better than Trump? Yeah, he's better than Trump, even impaired. I agree. I would absolutely take him over Trump, but that doesn't mean that that's the right choice. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make it the right choice just because someone does it. Bernie Sanders is a great example. Alejandro Espejo. He says, professors, Bernie Sanders is older and his mind is stronger. It's not about age. And by the way, Trump also has mental acuity issues. I agree. I don't think either of them should be doing this. Neither Biden nor Trump has demonstrated the capacity to be the leader. Not the physical capacity, not the mental capacity, and not the moral capacity. I mean, we are literally watching a genocide be prosecuted. And I'm going to get there in a second, because I think sometimes we're so focused on Joe Biden's mental acuity that we lose sight of all the other reasons why Joe Biden should not be running for the presidency or should not be elected, as president again. We'll get there, though. Joe Biden, before we even watched the ABC interview, and it was a pre-taped interview, it was not a live interview. Before we can even see it, Joe Biden seems to be much more confident than he was ahead of time. Remember, all week he's been hemming and hawing, and people are hemming and hawing. There's whispers behind the scenes, and we'll talk about that in a second too. But today on the campaign trail, he suddenly had a whole lot of confidence. He was like a different person. And I want y'all to see and hear who your president was today after he got off that Stephanopoulos interview. And I guess his team told him he did well enough that he can still run for president. Listen to this.
Now, you probably heard you had a little debate last week. Can't say it was my best performance. But ever since then, there's been a lot of speculation. What's Joe going to do? Is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to drop out? What's he going to do? Well, here's my answer. I am running and going to win again.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna show you the rest of the clip. I promise I am. But do you hear that? I'm running, I'm gonna win again. Like, it is absurd that in a country with hundreds of millions of people, and even in a Democratic Party, with governors and representatives and senators and mayors, cabinet members, that this is the best we can do. That someone at 81 years old is going to run for president and maybe win or lose to somebody who is equally beyond what I think is a reasonable threshold in terms of age and in terms of mental acuity. And the alternative is such a moral failure that the fact that he's 78 don't even make the top 5 reasons why you shouldn't want Donald Trump to be president. So just watching that spectacle, watching him say that, I'm going to run again, I'm going to win. It's like, really, bro? Like, you want to be 85 when you walk out the White House? But that's neither here nor there. Let's finish watching this, because I want y'all to hear what he said.
Because we're going to go. Folks, I'm the sitting president of the United States of America in no small part because of you. Not a joke. In 2020, you came through for me. I'm the nominee of the Democratic Party. I'm the nominee of this party because millions of Democrats like you just voted for me in primaries all across America. You voted for me to be your nominee.
Let me be very clear. I just want to step in 1 second. Joe Biden said something that is absolutely correct. He said that he is the sitting president of the United States in no small part because of us. No, not in no small part, in every part. He is president because we made him president. Donald Trump is president in 2016 because we made him president, and every other president is president because of the people. The people make presidents. The presidents don't make people. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that to say that if Joe Biden were to leave tomorrow, the people have the capacity to choose someone else. Joe Biden is saying, I'm the nominee because you chose me. Well, not to get all pedantic and technical, but you're not the nominee. You have taken the lead in the primary season. You're at the top of the list. You're on pace based on pledged delegates, but there hasn't been a convention yet. President Biden, you haven't been officially made the nominee yet. The people still have to make you the nominee. And I understand that it feels like it's all academic now. It feels pro forma. I get all of that. But the people, once again, have to think, is this the outcome we want? If Joe Biden is not willing to step aside, if he's not willing to step aside and make a different choice based on the evidence, based on the data, based on the polls, then the people may have to make it for him. The people may have to make it for him. And again, I say that with no joy in my heart. I say that with no confidence that that it'll make Donald Trump's job harder. I think it'll make it easier in the short term. But at the end of the day, Biden is not going to win. And if Biden is not going to win, the only chance you have of stopping Donald Trump, the only chance you have of preventing the return of fascism to the White House is to pick a different person. You're not the nominee, President Biden. You could be. You likely will be if we keep going in this way. But again, the question is, why the hell do we want to keep going this way?
No one else. You, the votes. The voters did that.
Vote.
Despite that some folks don't seem to care who you voted for. Well, guess what? They're trying to push me out of the race. Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race. I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
I'll point something out here. Two things. I'll point out the obvious one in a second. I'm going to play it for you again. You know what? I'm going to play it for you now because I don't want y'all to lose sight of this point that he just said. Listen to this.
In 2020.
Okay, one more time. I want to see. This is like, who
Let me say this clearly
who
as I
can find it?
I'm staying in the race.
I'm staying in the race.
I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
So you can't, it might seem like I'm being petty, but did you hear him say, I'll beat him again in 2020? For those that don't know, it's 2024. It's 2024. You did beat him in 2020, but that was 3.5 years ago, President Biden. It's not 2020 anymore. It's 2024. So when you say you will beat him in 2020, it doesn't make people think that you know what you're talking about. It makes people think that you think it's 2020 or that you don't know what year it is. Now, could it be just a verbal flub? Maybe, but you made a lot of them, sir. It makes people wonder. But you said something else. You said people don't seem to care who you voted for. He's trying to make it sound as if people are undermining democracy by asking him to step out of the race, that people aren't listening to the will of the people. No, it's not that. It's the people who are afraid. Yes, people voted for you in the primary. You were the sitting president. You ran unopposed. You were the incumbent. But now that they're paying attention to you and they're hearing you and they're hearing the mistakes and they're hearing you refuse a neurological test and they're hearing you be cagey and ignore the questions and they hear you say that you're going to win an election that would happen 3.5 years ago, it's not unreasonable to be like, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? We got to do better. Let's keep on listening to your president.
Well, by the way, we're going to do it again in 2024. I learned long ago, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
True.
I'm not letting one 90-minute debate wipe out 3.5 years of work. As the governor said, I've led this nation from the depths of pandemic to the strongest economy in the world, and that's literally true. And I and you are not finished yet.
I and you are not finished yet. Look, there's some truth to what Joe Biden is saying. He's like, look, we've come a long way. We restored some things that had slipped during the Trump presidency. True. Now, we also have to acknowledge his despicable policies at the border. We have to acknowledge his morally indefensible support of the Israeli genocide. We have to look at his continued illegal presence in Syria and Iraq. We have to look at the continued neglect of the continent of Africa. We have to look at the failure to even pretend to care about reparations for the descendants of slavery here in the United States. We have to, I mean, there's a lot of Joe Biden mess here. And I don't want to pretend that that mess isn't there, because it is, and it's quite messy. But Joe Biden is also saying, like, we got to finish this thing. We can't let it go back. I agree. I agree. Joe Biden is saying we got unfinished work. I agree. I don't necessarily think that Biden has the capacity or the political sort of maturity or I'm not even sure he's on the right side of the issue. I mean, maybe make it far simpler. I'm not even sure he's on the right side of a lot of these issues. So I can't say what Joe Biden's going to do, but I do know that he would be a better alternative to Trump. And some of y'all in the comments saying that I'm trying to get Trump elected. I am not trying to get Trump elected. Honestly, I want to do everything in my physical, mental, financial, political capacity to prevent Donald Trump from being president. And the best way, in my estimation, to keep Donald Trump from being president is to put up a formidable opponent in the general election. And right now, if Joe Biden isn't formidable, despite the people who voted for him back in January or February or March, you know, like right now it's July and people don't think he can hack it. And I think they're right. So that has to be a consideration. And at this point, you got members of Congress, Democrat members of Congress, people who are loyalists to to Joe Biden, people who are loyalists to Joe Biden, who are saying, Mr. President, it's time to do something different. I'm going to show you one of those people right now. He was on All In with Chris Hayes, and the good congressman out of Illinois had this to say.
But you didn't answer the question. Do you agree with Raul Grijalva, Lloyd Doggett, and Seth Moulton? The president should step aside.
I had a hard time processing getting to that point with him, as I think anybody would who respects him so much. I would say, Mr. President, your legacy is set. We owe you the greatest debt of gratitude. The only thing that you can do now to cement that for all time and prevent utter catastrophe is to step down and let someone else do this. Because I think day one, we're back in a dogfight. All of a sudden, all the things we're talking about with President Biden, we've got a lot more we can talk about with Trump. Not just that he lied 28 times during the debate and that he's an absolute monster, but he has cognitive issues, something that Speaker Emeritus Pelosi brought up earlier this week. She's absolutely right.
So one of the arguments that other folks have made, and again, I think I've been pretty honest about this. We're talking about working your way through this. I feel somewhat similarly differently because I'm a journalist. I'm not an elected member, but I have a deep stake in the.
So what I want to pause it there. What's happening there is really interesting because you hear Chris Hayes and many other sort of left-leaning Democrats or democratically inclined voters. You hear the anxiety, you hear the fear, the frustration, the trepidation in pushing for Biden to leave, even at the same time that they absolutely want him to leave. Nobody wants President Biden, no Democrat anyway, wants President Biden to feel disrespected. Nobody wants him to leave the office without his dignity and without a deep debt of gratitude for what he was able to do in the year 2020. It was no small feat, as Mike Quigley, again, the Democrat out of Illinois, alluded to, right? It was no small thing to stop Donald Trump's presidency. It was no small thing to restore some sense of global dignity. It was no small thing to create confidence in our public health infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I'm not romanticizing Joe Biden. They're both warmongers. I don't have any inclination to support Joe Biden. I don't have any inclination to pat Joe Biden on the back. I just happen to believe that he's a much better option than Donald Trump. That said, there's absolutely no way that we can overstate how important it was to block Donald Trump 4 years ago or 3.5 years ago. But that same energy has to come back now. And as Representative Quigley's saying, like, look, we love you, Mr. President. I'm not saying that, to be clear. I'm saying that's what Democrats are saying. We love you, Mr. President. We appreciate everything you've done. So, so we want you to have an exit strategy. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Here's where it gets very tricky. Because the exit strategy that Donald Trump has sort of occasioned, and I say Donald Trump's occasioned it to the extent that if Donald Trump isn't on the ballot, if it's a normal Democrat and a normal Republican going against each other, I think you don't hear this call as much. I think it's because the stakes are so high. But you got Joe Biden right now, who is committed to continuing. He's saying, look, I'm going to ride this thing out no matter what. If that's the situation, and Joe Biden can't be forced out, you got to figure out something. From what I understand, my sources have said that President Obama has secretly worried about whether Joe Biden could finish his campaign out. Democratic governors have had their own conversations with President Biden, as have some members of Congress. Joe Biden ultimately needs to create an out for himself. And I think the out for himself is that neurological exam. He hasn't taken it, and he has said he hasn't taken it. So what you do is he can create the context or the conditions where somebody pressures him and says, look, Mr. President, we really want you to take this neurological exam. And he can say, you know what? I want to be transparent. I support the will of the people. I'll take the neurological exam. And then when it doesn't come back strong, he can say, for health reasons, I have to step aside. That has to be the way to go. And the reason I say that is because in the Stephanopoulos interview, they asked him about the polls. And he basically said, screw the polls. He acted like only one poll showed him down. I was like, no, Stephanopoulos was like, no, there's multiple polls that show you down. There's a poll right here that has you down 6 points. And then he starts kind of, again, being cagey. You know, he goes from saying there is no poll that says that to who cares what polls say? Polls are wrong. Polls said I was losing last time. That's what they all do. So the poll numbers aren't going to convince Joe Biden to step aside. Even if he's losing, he's going to convince himself that he's not, which, again, heavyweight fighters and politicians are often the last one to know they're losing. They're getting their ass kicked. So this is the challenge. President Biden won't leave because of the polls. And he feels like he's been a successful president, so that's not going to make him leave. So we're going to have to give him an out. He has to know that he's not as sharp as he wants to be, but the Democrats have to give him an out, and the out has to be health. And then the next question is, as I've been saying all week, how do you replace someone or something like that? How do you replace Joe Biden on the Democratic ticket in July? Well, I think there's only one answer, and that's Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is not my choice. Kamala Harris, I'm saying, should be the Democrats' choice. Why do I say that, and why do I make that distinction? Well, because as great as Gavin Newsom is on paper, as much as people are certain that he's the heir apparent, he's the one, there's two issues. One, you don't know what's going to happen when he runs for president. Suddenly those things change. Just like Michelle Obama. Right now, she is the most popular Democrat. She leads the pack. People would love to vote for her. And people say that because they know she ain't running. And the moment she starts to run, everything changes. Gavin Newsom, people start to say, well, he got recalled almost, and he almost lost the election in his own home state, or he got recalled in his own home state. Not a good sign. The personal stuff comes out. I don't know what's in his life, if there are any skeletons or anything. I don't know, but I'm just saying he hasn't been vetted. He's not a proven commodity yet. And then there's the most important thing, which is, again, that Black people ain't going to let Gavin Newsom step in front of Kamala Harris. So unless Kamala Harris steps forward and says, I'd like to do one more term as vice president under Gavin Newsom to help him transition, I think it's best for the country that I stay in my capacity right now. If she does that, then maybe this works. But there's a really good chance that it won't work. And the reason is Kamala Harris doesn't want to be vice president under Gavin Newsom or anybody else. She wants to be president if Joe Biden ain't running. I ain't mad at her for that. And second, again, Black voters are not going to enable the kind of white man circumvention of Black and brown people's positions that you often see in corporate America or politics. In other words, it's going to be damn hard to convince Jim Clyburn's people in South Carolina, especially after Clyburn earlier this week said, look, Kamala's up next. It's very difficult, I mean, nearly impossible to convince Black voters in those places that Gavin Newsom's a better choice than Kamala Harris. In mainstream political circles and certainly in Black neighborhoods, Kamala Harris has more name recognition. She's more appreciated, more admired. Again, do I like her politics? Do I agree with her? No, I don't at all. But I'm just speaking about tactics and strategies about what it takes to stop Donald Trump from getting another term. Again, I don't care if Democrats win, lose, or draw, but I do care about Donald Trump losing. I need Donald Trump to lose. I need that to happen. And so let's lay that out. So if Biden heeds the calls that have come from certain circles, I can't say who. I know the answer, but I won't say because it's not my business. Just no name, no blame, as they say. So if that's the case, if there's this much pressure coming from different factions, different sides, I think the only thing you can do, again, is allow him to leave with dignity. You allow President Biden to walk away with dignity. Because to wrap this up, after tonight, it is not clear that President Biden has a grip on things. Again, no disrespect to George Stephanopoulos. He asked the questions that he was supposed to ask, and President Biden avoided them with every ounce of energy that he had. And so now our options are to wait for another candidate to see if Joe Biden gets sick or if he decides to get those tests and step aside. But I think something's got to give because there's too much talent on the Democratic bench. Again, I'm not speaking about ideology right now. I'm speaking about just talent. I would say the same thing about Republicans, right? The Republicans have a bench. Democrats are building one. But at some point, people just got to go prime time. Wes Moore out of Maryland is one of those people. Josh Shapiro out of Pennsylvania is one of those people. Kamala Harris, of course, is one of those people. Gavin Newsom, of course, is one of those people. The Castros, Julian Castro is one of those people. Pete Buttigieg is one of those people. Elizabeth Warren is, on the wrong side of this thing, but chronologically, I'm saying, but she'd be solid. Some people are calling for Hillary Clinton to come back. I'm like, Lord, can y'all get somebody new out this piece? All that to say, we need answers and we need them soon. So President Biden, you're still under the clock because you did not make your case on this ABC interview. It was a lot of lies and a lot of forgetting. Family, thank you for watching. I want to take a couple comments and questions before we roll though. Somebody said, does Michelle Obama resolve that concern? Absolutely not. Michelle Obama doesn't resolve the concern because Michelle Obama is never going to run. Michelle Obama doesn't want to run, but also the love that Michelle Obama enjoys is extraordinary. But the love that Michelle Obama enjoys is because she doesn't have to make choices or decisions or statements or take action that goes against anybody's political belief. She is about healthy eating, diet, joy, fun, love, right? So, you know, no one's mad at her, no one's against her. But as soon as she says, I'm running for president and I have these values, I have this stance on taxation, I have this stance on offshore drilling, I have this stance, you know, on what clean air is, suddenly y'all gonna start hating her again. And I remember when y'all hated her the first time. Some of y'all never got over that. That's right, Jacqueline. I was just saying Westmore from Maryland is a possibility. Jazz LP gave a generous donation and said the cognitive distance between what Biden says with respect to his stamina to run for president versus as to how he presents is alarming. Also, Biden doesn't believe in reparations for Black people, so that's a full stop for me. I agree. Biden's disrespect of reparations for me, it's not just the lack of support, but the actual disrespect of it that he never has come back from, I find deeply problematic, deeply dangerous. Yeah. Kimmy, shout out to you. Bullet the Bunny, shout out to you. Maggie62 donated 6 memberships to the channel. I'm so grateful for that, y'all. Y'all don't know, it's the top of the month, y'all. It is already July 5th, and the channel is needing to pay some bills. So while we at it, y'all, I want to thank you all for watching the channel. I want to thank you all for supporting Night School in particular. We have been rocking Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, and it has been a joy, and we ain't going nowhere. We're going to be here for as long as we can be. We're going to be here for as long as it is physically possible for us to be here. But to do that, we need your support, everybody. We are up against corporate media. We are up against a machine, and that machine doesn't stop. And so we have to have that same energy of like, we ain't going to stop. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep expanding. But to do that, we need your financial support. And so I'm going to ask everybody who is watching, if you could consider first hitting the like button. As we're out here with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, if you could just hit the like button, it goes a long way toward letting people know what is in the YouTube algorithm for you. Hit the subscribe button. If you hit the subscribe button and you're subscribed to the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, you get all the updates, all the information, all the content. And again, you help us fight for ourselves in these internet streets. And if you're so inclined, hit the join button. The join button is pretty much on the desktop version of YouTube. But when you hit the join button, you become a monthly supporter, a financial supporter of the channel. It can be as low as $3.99 a month. Just the price of a burger or whatever burgers cost these days will get you that support from us, and we could use it. Every single, and I really mean this, every single day we're putting up new content, and we're putting that new content up because we want to build our audience. We want to stretch our reach, extend our reach, and really produce the kind of stuff that, you know, I don't know, that we'd want to see, right? Like Tony Morrison said, write the book that you want to read. I want to create the programming that I want to have access to. And so that's why we're here. That's why you have so many different projects going on, from the podcasts to the interviews to the nightly talk show. Y'all get a nightly talk show, but it needs to be supported. So I'm going to ask everybody to hit the join button who can, and do that that commitment to at least a bronze membership, but go all the way up to platinum if you're feeling like a boss. And some of you say you can't do a monthly commitment. I understand. If you can't do a monthly commitment, I understand. But go to Cash App right now, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle, and pay the night school tuition for the month. If everybody watching right now were to donate just $10, for everybody watching were to donate $10, we would meet our financial goals for the month. We'd be able to pay our staff. We'd be able to move toward building the new studio. All of it comes with your support, with your financial support, and also your intellectual support and your social support. So please spread the word, let folk know. But again, if you can make just a donation this month, $10. If you can't do 10, do 5. If you can do more than 10, do 20, whatever your number is. But $10 is a good round number to say, hey, hit the Cash App, hit the PayPal, hit the Venmo, hit the Zelle. And if you drop us $10, we'll be able to really do the kind of work that we want to do here on the channel. As you saw with that last banner, in addition to the ways to pay, you see night school at the bottom, office hours on Sunday. Night School was what you've been watching tonight. Office Hours is a deep dive conversation with a brilliant intellectual. That ain't no joke. With the Coffee and Books podcast, with the Classroom in the Cell podcast, which is co-hosted me and political prisoner Mumia Abu-Jamal. I mean, we are rocking and rolling, y'all. I don't want. Yeah, I'm just so proud of what we built, but we need your support. We need your help, family. So if you can drop something in our coffers one way or the other, we'd be most grateful. Excuse me. Thank you so much. I also want to thank everybody who's decided to just subscribe to the channel, man. Just subscribing to the channel is a big deal. So please do it as soon as you can. And I'll talk to you soon. Peace.